Welcome to the Run Your Day podcast, where our goal is to expand your focus and perspective on life. This is your daily dose of motivation, mindfulness, and so much more. And now, here to help you take your day back, your host, Dan Hafner.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome into the Run Your Day podcast. As always, your host, Dan Hafner, joining you here this morning. It's Monday, my friends, start of another week. So today's topic is this: the more things change. As always, thank you all for joining. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about change. Now, when I was a kid, when I was younger, I always heard this saying: the more things change, the more they stay the same. And I'm going to admit something to you guys. It took me a long time to figure out what this truly meant. Like, I was confused as a kid. I never could understand this. I could never wrap my head around this. When I was younger, when I was little. And it was always like, well, okay, things are either changing or they're staying the same. I don't understand how the more they change, the more they're the same. Because once they're the same, why would they be changing? Right? Like, I could just never... It took me a long time to wrap my head around this. And the more I've lived life, the more I've come to understand truly what this means, right? Things are always changing. And that is what stays the same, is that change is constant. And it took me going through college, going through different jobs and different phases of my life to finally understand, that change is inevitable. Like, that is the one constant in life. Like, no matter what you're doing, no matter what domain of your life you're talking about, where you are, how old you are, what color you are, how rich you are, how poor you are, like, things are always changing for all of us, right? And it's interesting because we can be so resistant to it, right? Like, how many times you hear somebody say, "Oh, I hate change. Oh, I don't like when things change." Man, that's the one thing that you can count on. Like, why would you hate change? And I'll admit, I used to be like this too. Like, I used to be very, closed-minded to things and would just say the same thing. Like, oh, I hate when things change. I hate when things are different. Right? But change is the most beautiful thing there is. Change can be one of the most beautiful things that there is, because change means that there's growth. There's adaptation. There's, I guess adaptation would be the best word. I'm trying to think of another word off the top of my head. I can't. But, there's exploration. That's kind of the word I was looking for, right? So isn't it weird how we live in this quandary where so many of us can be resistant to change, to do things differently than what we're comfortable with? We live our lives in these comfort zones, yet on the other side of that same coin, we yearn for change. We want things. We know deep down that we want things to be different. We want better lives for ourselves, more money, better fitness, better relationships. We all want more of this. And we know that in order to get that, there are changes that need to be made. And yet we can be so resistant to them, even when they knock right on our doorstep. I can think of many examples, like too many to list in this podcast, of times in my life when the change that I wanted, that I had been working for, knocked on my doorstep, and I was just too scared to embrace it. Maybe you've had this happen to you. Like, it's normal, because change equals unknown, right? There's a variable in there that means there's something unknown out there. This is different. This is new, and I don't know what will happen, right? And that's the basis of a comfort zone, is you know what's going to happen. You've experienced this before. Your brain has a memory of it, and you know that, oh, when I do this action, I get this result. Change means that there's a different action required, meaning there's an unknown result. That creates fear. That creates doubt. That creates uncomfortability, right? So I get it now. I get why we all can be so scared of change, because it leads to fear. It leads to doubt. It leads to insecurity, uncomfortability, right? But the paradigm shift that has to take place there in you and in me, right, is being willing to be uncomfortable and willing to accept that, hey, you know what? I don't know the outcome of this. I don't know what outcome this action is going to have for me. Like, take a relationship, for example. You know, maybe you're in a relationship that just is going downhill, or it's been stale, or maybe it's new, right? And it can be uncomfortable to try new things, or to say something to a partner or a parent or a sibling or a child or whatever it might be that's going to upset the status quo, right? But at the same time, we know that we need to do that because we desire a different result. Like we desire a different outcome, a different way of it being, but we might not know what exactly that is. Now, as long as we're clear on what we know that desired result can be, we can take more specific action. But say you don't know. You're like, this just isn't working. I don't know what the deal is, but this just needs to improve, right? It can be very scary because you don't know exactly what actions to take. And I get that. I've been there many times, right? But the key is just actually taking action, just getting off your chest what is on your chest, just coming out and saying it, saying how you feel, doing what you need to do, and being okay with whatever outcome is the result of that. Being okay with whatever is different, because you know that at least it's different and it's not the same as it used to be, right? Because it's probably going to be better. Now, things could get worse. You know, I'm not saying that, but, you know, 9 times out of 10, things are going to get better when you make a change, because you're going after a different result. You're taking an action that's leading to something different. And just the mere act of that changes you as a person, can change someone else as a person, and can change the outcome in the situation, the relationship, whatever it might be, right? So my question for you today is this. Where in your life are things staying the same? And how can you take an action to start making the change you want to see? Where in your life are things staying the same, and you need to take an action in order to make the change you desire? So that's my question and my challenge for you guys today. So that's going to wrap up the show. I am off today. I actually have jury duty, my friends. I am serving the great government of West Virginia. So that's what I'm off to do. I hope you guys are doing something a little more fun with your lives today. But I will be back with you tomorrow morning. As always, Dan Hafner signing off the Run Your Day podcast. Thank you all for joining. Make it a great rest of your day.
Thank you for listening to the Run Your Day podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, feel free to share today's show with friends and family. Until next time, have a great day.